ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. So today we will be reading about Ajamil. Ajamil, who was a Brahman, who was a Brahman putra, right? He was born into a Brahman family, but he fell down. He got attracted to a prostitute. He left his family. He left his job. He left his parents and started living the life of a very ignorant person with this prostitute. But still, he got a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. So we will read about that tale from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. Actually, especially in the second, third, right? Second, third, fourth, and fifth cantos, especially third, fourth, and fifth cantos, we can see how Sukadeva Goswami is describing about the creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary system. So this sixth canto, which comprises of 19 chapters, will speak about Poshan. Poshan means protection by the Lord. How Lord is so merciful and how minutely He is protecting all His children who are living in this material world today. So this Ajamil Charit comprises of mostly the first three chapters of the sixth canto. So we will start reading the first shloka, canto 6. First chapter, first shloka. The first shloka is by King Parikshit. King Parikshit, you can say he's the grandson of Arjun. Who is Arjun? Arjun was the one who was listening to Srimad Bhagavad Gita when Krishna was speaking Srimad Bhagavad Gita in Kurukshetra. And this Parikshit Maharaj, King Parikshit, is the grandson of Arjun. Right? So King Parikshit has been sentenced to death within 7 days. He committed some offense on the lotus feet of a monk, of a sage, and he cursed King Parikshit that within 7 days you will die. And how you will die? That a snake will come, a snake will bite you, and from the poison of from the venom of that snake you will die. Right. So King Parikshit said that what should I do within these 7 days? So in these 7 days, he decided to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a very serious topic. It's a very serious discussion going on. So let's try to develop that seriousness in our consciousness in our mind and listen to this beautiful conversation between the Vishnu Dutas, between the carriers by Vishnu. Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the carriers by Yamaraj. Yamaraj is the god of death, right? Okay, so first shloka, Shri Parikshit Uvacha. Nivritti Marga Kathita Ado Bhagavata Yatha Karma Yoga Palabdhena Brahmanaya Asamrithi. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Sukadeva Goswami, you have already described in the second canto of the path of liberation, Nivriti Marga. By following that, One is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnav, when he heard the description at the end of the fifth canto of the different hellish conditions of life, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master Sukadev Goswami about the Nivriti Marga, or path of liberation, which he had described in the second canto. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the same who at the time of death was fortunate to meet Sukadev Goswami, inquired from Sukadev Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Sukadev Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, "Variyan esate prashna krato loka hitam nripa atmavit samatah pumsham Shruta-vyadishu ya. My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial for all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. Hearing. Even Prahlad Maharaj, when he explains about Navada Bhakti, the first step of the nine step of devotion, nine um, yeah, nine steps of devotion, Navada Bhakti. He first says Shravanam. We should spend a lot of time hearing. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, right? So, Sukadeva Goswami says that this is the most important thing we all should hear. Parikshit Maharaj was astonished that the living entities in the conditioned stage do not accept the path of liberation, devotional service, instead of suffering in so many hellish planets. This is the symptom of a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu vya evacha. A Vaishnav is an ocean of mercy. Para dukhe dukhi. He is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, being compassionate towards the conditioned soul suffering in hellish life, suggested that Sukadeva Goswami continue describing the path of liberation, which he had explained in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. The word asamsriti is very important in the connection. Samsriti means to continuing on the path of birth and death. Samsriti means to being in the cycle of birth and death, in this birth of continuous birth and death, as Adi Guru Shankaracharya used to say, Punarapi Janamam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jatare Sayanam. And Asamsriti means to get out. Asam Smriti, on the contrary, refers to the Nivriti Marga, or the path of liberation, by which one's birth and death cease and one gradually progresses to Brahmaloka. Unless one is a pure devotee who does not care about going to the higher planetary systems, in which in which case one immediately returns home, back to Godhead, by executing devotional service. Taktva deham punarjanma naiti. This is from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Parikshit Maharaj therefore was very eager to hear from Sukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation for the conditional soul. You see, Parikshit Maharaj knows that he is going to leave his body within 7 days. And we are reading, this is the sixth canto out of 12 cantos. So that means this is exactly the 50th percent of the entire discourse. If we are in the 50th percent, so we can imagine that already 3.5 days have passed. Right? 3 days must have been passed by now. But still, Parikshit Maharaj, irrespective of his own death, he is asking about how people of this conditioned people of this material world can be liberated. Look, this is the quality of a Vaishnava, right? Vaishnava never thinks about himself. That's why Prabhupada quoted this bhajan, para dukhe dukhi. Huh? Para dukhe dukhi. Para dukhe dukhi means one who becomes sad if he sees someone else in sorrow, if he sees someone else in grief. Right? This is the quality of a Vaishnava, right? And we will continue our reading. According to the opinion of the acharyas, the word karma yoga palabdhena indicates that by performing karma yoga and then jnana yoga and finally coming to the platform of bhakti yoga, three yogas, we will like read about these three yoga: karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga in detail around 18th verse of this very first chapter. Though we already know about this from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, but still there is a very clear explanation of these three yogas. And finally, coming to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one can be liberated. Bhakti Yoga, however, is so powerful that it does not depend on Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga itself is so powerful that even an impious man with no assets in Karma Yoga or illiterate with no assets in Jnana Yoga can undoubtedly be elevated to the spiritual world if he simply adheres to Bhakti Yoga. Right. So in Bhakti Yoga, you don't need to become a jnani. Right. There is a very beautiful story of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was doing his South India yatra, Dakshina Bharat yatra, he saw this Brahmana who was reading the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, but he was holding it upside down like this and he was reading it. And he was crying. He was holding it like this. He was looking at it. He was crying. He was crying. He was crying. So Mahaprabhu went to him and he asked that, "Oh dear Brahmana, oh Vipravara, why are you crying? What is the reason of this grief? Why are you crying? What are you seeing in this Bhagavad Gita that makes you cry?" So the Brahman said that Mahaprabhu, just see Krishna, how merciful he is that he did not even think before becoming a servant for his devotees. But he said, "Oh, that's nice. Are you able to understand anything?" "No, I'm certainly not able to understand anything, but still I'm following the orders of my spiritual master." His spiritual master asked him to read Bhagavad Gita, and so he's just trying to read Bhagavad Gita and he is crying. So Mahaprabhu said, "You are one of the acharyas. We should learn a lot of things from you." Right? So that's why that person was not a jnani. He did not have a lot of knowledge about everything, about Sanskrit, about shloka, about how to read, how to explain, how to understand. But still, he was adhering to the instructions of a spiritual master, and that's how he was excelling in in the Bhakti Yoga. Mam avaishashi asamshayah. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8.7 that by the process of Bhakti Yoga, one undoubtedly goes back to Godhead, back home, back to the spiritual world. Yogis, however, instead of going directly to the spiritual world, sometimes want to see other planetary systems and therefore they ascend to the planetary system where Lord Brahma lives. As indicated here by the word Brahmana, at the time of dissolution, Lord Brahma along with all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka, goes directly to the spiritual world. This is confirmed in the Vedas as follows: Brahmana sahate sarve samprapte pratisanchare parasyante kritatmana pravisanti parampadam. Because of their exalted position, those who are on Brahmaloka at the time of dissolution go directly back home, back to Godhead, along with Lord Brahma. So, if someone of a yogi, what happens is, suppose we are going in a train, right? Suppose I am going here from Indiana to New York. So on the way, I will go through many places. Like I will go through Ohio, and then I will go through some parts of Pennsylvania. I will stop in Pittsburgh. I will stop in Philadelphia. I'll stop in New Jersey, and then I will go to New York. So what happens is that sometimes when these yogis they're on the path, they're on the way to New York, they say, "Hey, this Philadelphia place looks interesting." Huh? They get off there, they get off in Philadelphia and spend some time there. They say, "Hey, this seems very interesting. I will just live here." But Krishna, in the Vedas, it is confirmed that during the time of dissolution, right? Dissolution, dissolution is in dismantling. When the world comes to an end, when the life of Brahma comes to an end, Brahmana sahate sarve. Along with Brahma, all those people who are there in Brahmaloka, Samprapte Pratisanchare, all of them go back home, back to Godhead. They all go back to Godhead along with Lord Brahma, directly back home, back to Godhead. Right? We will move to the second verse. Pravritti Lakshanaschaiva Traigunya Vishayo Mune Yo Ashav Alina Prakter Guna Sarga Punaha Punaha. Oh, great sage. Again, this is the continuation of Parikshit Maharaj. Oh, great sage Sukadev Goswami, unless the living entity is freed from the infection of material modes of nature, he receives different types of bodies in which to enjoy or suffer according to the body. He is understood to have various inclinations. By following these inclinations, he traverses the path called Pravriti Marga, by which one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, as you have already described in the third canto purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitran Yanti Pitra Vrata Bhutani Yanti Bhuttejya Yanti Madhyajino Apimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. Basically, Je Jathamam Prapadyante Tam Tatheva Bhajamyam. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever you ask me, however you ask me, I will give it to you. So it depends what we pray for. If we want to be born as a demigod, so we pray to the demigods and we become a demigod. If we pray to ghosts, you become a ghost. If we pray to our uh, Pitru, Pitru Purusha, ancestors, then we will go to Pitru Loka. And if you pray to Lord Krishna, then you will go back home, back to Godhead, to Golok Vrindavan. Because of the influence of the various modes of nature, the living entities have various tendencies or propensities, and therefore they are qualified to achieve various destinations. Right? As long as one is materially attached, he wants to be elevated to the heavenly planets because of his attraction to the material world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares, however, those who worship me come to me. If one has no information about the Supreme Lord and his abode, one tries to be elevated only to a higher material position. That when one concludes that in this material world there is nothing but repeated birth and death, he tries to return back home, back to Godhead. If one attains that destination, he need never return to this material world. Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Krishna says that yad gatva, if where you go, non nivartante, there is no coming back. Tadhama, that place, paramam mamam, that is the most paramam, right? Paramam, paramam, the topmost place where I live. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyan Leela 19:151, ब्रह्मांड भ्रमिते कौन भाग्यवान जीव गुरु कृष्ण प्रसादे पाए भक्ति लता बीज. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Universe doesn't mean the solar system, these few planets on Earth, or from India to America, or something like this. No, it means that Brahmanda means starting from Brahmaloka to the place of demigods to so many different places, right? Brahmanda Brahmite kon bhagyavan jeev. Then how does he get this chance to go to Paramam Mamam, to the place of Krishna? By Guru Krishna Kripate, Guru Krishna Prasade, by the mercy of Krishna and his eternal servant Guru. By the mercy of spiritual master and Krishna, we get this bhakti lata beej, we get the seed of devotion in our heart. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary system, and some are going down into the lower planetary system. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. Who is a bona fide spiritual master who comes in this disciplic succession by the mercy of both Krishna, by the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master. Such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. All living entities are rotating through the universe, going sometimes up to the higher planetary system and sometimes going down to the planetary system. This is the material disease. This is, Parikshit Maharaj said that infection of material disease in the translation, as we see, that living entity is freed from the infection of material modes of nature. The demigods, even people who live in the higher planetary system, they consider this material world to be an infection, right? It's a state of disease. It's a diseased state, right? So, pravriti marg. When one becomes intelligent, he takes to the nivriti marg, the path of liberation. Pravriti and nivriti. Pravriti means excelling in the path, and nivriti means completely going out of the cycle. Right? Because this is a cycle, and I'm here. I want to go up. Then I will go for pravriti marg. And what is nivriti marg? I will completely get out of it. Right? Suppose I'm studying in an university now. I am a very average student. Now I want to become a good student. I want to get distinction in my class. So what I will do, I will study, I will work hard, I will attend all my lectures, I will read, I will do extra studies, I will make good notes, I will revise. This is pravriti mark. Then I decided, no, I want to be someone like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Then I will just completely drop out of college and start my startup. That is not recommended though. But yeah, I will just completely drop out of college and start my own thing. So that is nivriti mark, completely get out of the cycle. Moving on, text 1.3. Adharma lakshana nana narakaschanuvarnita manvantarascha vyakhyata adhya swayam bhuvo yataha. Translation: You have also described at the end of the fifth canto the varieties of hellish life that result from impious activities, and you have described in the fourth canto the first Manvantara, which was presided over the Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma. Right? So everything we do has its own repercussions. Like Newton's third law says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That is the concept of karma. The concept of karma is a common thing in Buddhism also. In Buddhism, I'm studying a little bit of Buddhism also. In Buddhism, we will say that they put a lot of effort. They put a lot of emphasis. I keep forgetting the word. Right? They put a lot of emphasis on karma. What is karma? This is what they are saying. In fifth canto Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of the hellish planets. What will happen if you do this? What will happen if you will indulge in illicit sex? What will happen if you speak for lies? If you don't speak truth? What will happen if you kill animal? What will happen if you cheat people? What will happen if you indulge in intoxication? All these things. So next verse. Priyavrata Priyavratotanopodor Vamsaschach Charitani cha Dvipavarsa Samudradri Nadi Udyana Vanaspatin Dharamandala Samsthanam Bhagalakshanamanath Jyotisham Vibharanam cha Yathedam Asrajad Vibhu. Translation: My dear Lord, you have described the dynasties and characteristics of King Priyavrata and Uttanapada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world with various universes, planetary systems, planets, and stars, with various lands, seas, oceans, mountains, rivers, gardens, and trees, all with different characteristics. They are divided among this planet Earth, the luminaries in the sky, and lower planetary system. You have very clearly described these planets and the living entities who live on them. Right? So Parikshit Maharaj saying is, you have explained how the Supreme Personality created everything. We say that no, this was created with a Big Bang theory. There was a huge accident, there was a huge explosion, and this led to the creation of this material world. Now, how can we say that? Right? For every painting has a painter. Every creation must have a creator. Right? So we can say that the earth is placed in such a way that if we go little bit like an inch to the left, we might we might freeze, or if we go an inch to the right, we might burn. Right? We are placed in such a perfect measurement that's why we are getting such a the existence of life is possible in the earth, because the because of very calculated presence of hot of heat and cold. Right? So every creation must have a creator. Similarly, he's saying that Supreme Personality is the creator. You have very clearly described these planetary systems and the living entities who live in them. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Here the words Yathedam Asrajad Vibhu clearly indicate that the Supreme, the Great, Almighty Personality of Godhead created this entire material world with its different varieties of planets, stars, and so forth. Atheists try to conceal the hand of God, which is present in every creation, but they cannot explain how all these creations could come into existence without a component intelligence and almighty power behind them. Simply to imagine or speculate is a waste of time. Right? So many scientists and people are there doing a lot of research how this world came into existence, how human body came into existence. Bhagavatam is a complete nonsense. Bhagavatam is complete nonsense. Right? Atheists try to conceal the hand of God which is present in every creation, but they cannot explain how all these creations could come into existence without a competent intelligence and almighty power behind them. Intelligence and almighty power behind them. Simply to examine or speculate is a waste of time. In Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am origin of everything, matah sarvam pravartate. Whatever exists in the creation emanates from me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the origin of everything, and mata sarvam pravartate. Whatever exists in the creation has come out from me, emanates from me. Iti matva bhajante mam bodha bhava samanvita. One who fully understands this, that I create everything by my omnipotence, one becomes firmly situated in devotional service and fully surrenders unto my lotus feet. Unfortunately, the unintelligent cannot immediately understand Krishna's supremacy. That's why we are unfortunate. There is no doubt if we call ourselves, even all the people of this world who are not performing devotional service is unfortunate, because everything is there in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the Vedic scriptures. But what we are doing, we are wasting our time, we are wasting our energy and trying to test it and land nowhere, because we are atheist and we can't say that, oh, this has been actually created by God. If we simply say that this has been created by God and accept it, not just take it as an escape, because sometimes when people try to do it, and they land nowhere, they say, okay, this has been created by God. But why did you work so much before saying that, before claiming that this has been created by God? Right? Unfortunately, the unintelligent, unfortunate and unintelligent. Nonetheless, if they associate with devotees and read authorized book, they may gradually come to the proper understanding, although this may take many births, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Yante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. After many births and deaths, not just in one life. My counselor, His Grace Premni, my Prabhu used to say, don't think you will Aaj Bharti Kal Chakravarti. You will get into the movement today and tomorrow you will become Chakravarti. You will know everything. No, good things take time, right? There is a saying, Rome was not made in a day. He who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. Jnana. Jnanavanam prapadyate. We need jnana, we need knowledge. Knowing me to be the cause of all causes. Knowing me to be the cause of all causes. Sarva karana karanam. And all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. That that person who knows, who has the knowledge that Krishna, the Supreme Personality, is the Sarva Karana Karanam, is the reason behind everything, and who actually surrenders unto his lotus feet is very rare. Right? Because if we say that we have surrendered, people who are in Krishna consciousness, who are chanting 16 rounds, like even me, I might say that I have surrendered. But how have I surrendered? I still have this sense of independence. I feel that dependence on Krishna. Right? In the path of devotion, there is no question of independence. Those who are trying to practice brahmacharya, or those who even want to practice bhakti, there is no question of independence. You cannot be independent. Independent doesn't we think that okay, I will try and I will get it. Okay, try. We can just try, and eventually we will fail. What is the actual thing? Dependent on Krishna. When we there is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita, matah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. I'm forgetting the words. Matah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. Probably we'll come across that verse in later in this chapter, in the purport itself. That means that if you see a beautiful pearl necklace, you might think that wow, this necklace is so beauty, but you forget that the beauty of those pearls and the necklace is because of the thread that is unseen, right? So what is unseen is even more powerful than what is seen, right? What we cannot see is even more powerful than what we can see. So, similarly, we should understand that this birth is very rare. This human birth is very rare. We get this chance to be born as a human being after a very, very long time, after going into so many yonis, after being born as a dog, a hog, a bird, a bacteria, a virus. And finally, we get this human birth. So we should try to take most advantage of this human life, right? Therefore, the same principle, the combination of the Supreme Spirit and the material element, is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, right? So we should try to eliminate this sense of independence that we have inside us and be completely dependent on Krishna. Then only we can be, that is the true state of devotion. That's how devotees should be. Okay, I will give my best. Does that mean okay, I will just sit and chant, but I will get my internship, I will get good grades in my exam, I will get a promotion? No. Arjun was not a coward. Arjun was competent. Arjun knew how to play with that bow and arrow, but still there was something extraordinary that was also working on top of that, right? So we should do like my mom used to say, do your best and then God will do the rest. So we should be enough competent to fight, but then we should also seek blessings. We should also seek dependence. We should also seek some support from the Supreme Personality so that we can properly, ethically, and efficiently and effectively complete everything that we come across. Text 1.6. अधुनेह महाभाग यथैव नरकान्नरः नानोग्र यातनान्ययात् तन्मे व्याख्यातुम अर्हसि. Translation: O greatly fortunate and opulent Sukadeva Goswami, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. So now, like this is the main conversation which begins when King Parikshit is asking Sukadev Goswami that, oh, greatly fortunate and opulent Sukadev Goswami, right? Oh, greatest among the sages. You tell me that how people who have already committed sin and they are about to go to Hell, especially for people like us, for people like me, who have committed innumerable offense in their life. And now they are getting to know about Krishna, about this beautiful path of devotion. And now they don't want to go to hell. They want to go back home, back to Godhead. What should those people do? Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, Sukadev Goswami has explained that people who commit sinful acts are forced to enter hellish planets and suffer. Right? Whoever commits offense, they will go to the hellish planet and suffer. Now, Maharaj Parikshit, being a devotee, is concerned with how this can be stopped. A Vaishnava is para dukha dukhi. In other words, he has no personal troubles, but he is very unhappy to see others in trouble. Prahlad Maharaj said, "My Lord, I have no personal problem, for I have learned how to glorify your transcendental qualities and thus enter a trance of ecstasy. I do have a problem, however, for I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with Maya Sukha, temporary happiness, without knowledge of devotional service unto you. This is the problem faced by a Vaishnava." So Vaishnava says that I don't have any problem by myself, right? Because I know how to taste your transcend, I know how to glorify your transcendental qualities, and that's my biggest pleasure. That's like I enjoy a lot. I cherish that. But my problem is when the people of this earth, when the people of this Dharadham, they are they are not getting over this Maya Sukha, this temporary happiness, right? So Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna, are saying that all sorts of happiness that we are saying that we are enjoying, we are happy, I am happy in my life, as Maya Sukha, temporary happiness, which kind of makes sense, right? Because suppose we are looking for happiness, we become happy, and then why do we again have to look for it, right? Because suppose I am wearing a ring and I lost my ring in a marketplace, in a mall or somewhere, and I looked for it, I searched for it, and after some time I found it. So eventually I will not continue my searching process, right? Similarly, so if we are looking for happiness, and suppose intoxication, suppose illicit sex, suppose partying gives us pleasure, gives us happiness, then why do we have to again go for it? Because we are already happy, right? Happiness doesn't come like, if we do it once, then we are happy, and that happy is not permanent, it's temporary. As Krishna says, that dukhalayam asashwatam, everything asashwatam, nothing is eternal, everything is temporary. Temporary happiness without knowledge of devotional service unto you. This is the problem faced by a Vaishnava, because a Vaishnava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He personally has no problem. So the moral is, if one takes complete shelter of Godhead, a Vaishnava who fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he personally has no problem. But because he is compassionate towards the fallen conditioned soul, he is always thinking of plans to save them from their hellish life in their body and the next. Parikshit Maharaj, therefore, anxiously wanted to know from Sukadeva Goswami how humanity can be served from gliding down to hell. Sukadeva Goswami had already explained how people enter hellish planet. Sukadeva Goswami had already explained how people enter hellish life, and he could also explain how they could be saved from it. Intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness, and therefore people are suffering from the grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this one. Right? People say that आज की जिंदगी कल नहीं, कल हो ना हो, right? Who knows if we stay alive tomorrow, so do whatever you want. No, exactly, you should really put more emphasis on that very statement. We do not know what will happen tomorrow. Don't we think we should be little grateful to the Supreme, to grateful to the one who has given us with literally everything? To convince them for their next life is very difficult because they have become almost mad in their pursuit of material enjoyment. Nevertheless, the duty of all the sane men is to save them. Maharaj Parikshit is the representative of one who can save them. Maharaj Parikshit is representative of a Vaishnava. He represents how a Vaishnava should be. So this is the very first verse by Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami, who is the speaker of Bhagavatam, will be speaking now. Parikshit asked his questions, King Parikshit, and now Sukadeva Goswami will be answering. न चेदिहैवावचितिं यथा हसा कृतस्य कुर्यान् मन उक्तपानिभिः ध्रुवं स वै प्रीत्य नरकानुपैति ये कीर्तिता मे भवतास्तिग्मयातना यातना. Yatana is a very good word. Yatana is used a lot in the first canto, in the fifth canto, in the previous canto. Yatana, we'll see. Sukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body are not counteracted through proper atonement, according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you." Right. So in Hindi, there is a word known as prayaschit. Right. So if we have committed some offense, we go and do prayaschit, which is known as atonement. In also, like in Christianity, people go to church every Sunday and they ask for forgiveness for whatever they have done. Okay, I'm very sorry. I won't do this again. Right. So the similar thing. So Sukadeva Goswami is saying that if we don't counteract all our sinful activities, then we are bound to go to the hellish planet and suffer there. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that although Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee, Sukadeva Goswami did not immediately speak to him about the strength of devotional service. Right? He's gradually, first he will discuss about karma yoga, jnana yoga, then about bhakti yoga. He's gradually taking this in, right? Because the best is always at the last. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Devotional service is so strong that if one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, the reaction of his sinful life immediately stop. Right? Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will make sure you get rid of all your sinful activities. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. Elsewhere in the Gita, 18.6, Lord Krishna urges that one should give up all other duties and surrender unto him. And he promises, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami. I shall free you. Krishna confirms this. I shall free you from all sinful reactions and give you liberation. Therefore, in response to the enquiries of Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami, his guru, could have immediately explained the principle of bhakti, but to test Parikshit Maharaj's intelligence, he first prescribed atonement according to Karma Kanda, the path of fruitive activities. For Karma Kanda, there are 80 authorized scriptures, right? Karma Kanda, as in what all we do, usually what people do in India, right? Performing Lakshmi Puja, performing Durga Puja, performing Saraswati Puja, Ganesh Puja. Hey, that is known as Karma Kanda. The Karma Kanda has been explained in 80 scriptures, such as Manu Samhita, which were known as the Dharma Shastras. In these scriptures, one is advised to counteract his sinful acts by performing other types of fruitive actions. This was the path first recommended by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and actually, it is a fact that one who does not take to devotional service must follow the decision of these scriptures by performing pious acts to counteract his impious acts. This is another atonement. So Prabhupada is further saying that here Sukadev Goswami is first advising King Parikshit about Karma Kanda that has been explained in 80 scriptures, and Manu Samhita is one of them. Right? So, if one is not able to perform pure devotional service, which is known as unalloyed devotional service, nothing about myself, but just my only and only aim is to please you, oh my Murlidhar Shri Krishna. Right? If we are not able to go to that platform, it is okay if we try to do this karma kanda and counteract our sinful activities in order to attain atonement. This is known as atonement. 1.8, तस्मात् पुरैवास्व इहा पाप निष्कृतौ यतेत मृत्युर अभिपाद्यात्मना दोषस्य दृष्ट्वा गुरुलाघवं यथा भीषक चिकित्सेत रुजाम nidanavit. Right? Translation. Therefore, before one's next death comes, before you die, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reaction of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Right? Suppose you have little fever or you have flu, you can say, okay, I will take some rest, I will gargle a little bit, I will take some steam, and I will try to do some nuske, ghar ke nuske, right? I will try some things that are available at home and I will try to get over it, right? I will take some paracetamol, I will take some NyQuil or something. But if you say that, okay, there is some severe pain in my lower stomach or some my upper stomach, and I feel that there is something serious, then you have to go to the doctor right away, right? And if the doctor says, oh, that's fine, it's probably because of gastritis, he will prescribe you some antacids. But if you say, no, there is some cancer developing inside it, there is a tumor developing inside it, what he will do and say, right now I have to admit you to the hospital, and within next 2 hours we have to get into surgery, right? So the diagnosis depends upon the severity of the disease. Similarly, our atonement should undergo according to the severity of our sins. That's why people in India, at least in India, I have seen this, because in India, the is known as the religious capital of the world, right? So people by default they are somewhat religious. I don't know about today's generation, but people previously they are somewhat religious. That's why they used to go to take a dip in Ganga. They used to attend the Kumbh Mela. They used to go for pilgrimage, the Char Dham ki yatra, right? Because they want to get rid of their sin. So this is what Sukadev Goswami told here. Purport. The Dharma Shastras, like the Manu Samhita, prescribe that a man who has committed murder should be hanged and his own life sacrificed in atonement. This is the counteract. This is the way to counteract murder. If you have killed someone, then you have to hang yourself and give up your body. That is the only way for atonement. Previously, the system was followed all over the world. But since people are becoming atheists, they are stopping capital punishment. This is not wise. Herein it is said that a physician who knows how to diagnose a disease prescribes medicine accordingly. If the disease is very serious, the medicine must be strong. Right? Simple flu, you will get a little bit. If you have a lot of flu, a lot of fever, you will get paracetamol, you will get some antibiotics and everything. The weight of the murderer's sin is very great. And therefore, according to Manu Samhita, a murderer must be killed. That's why in India also, we have seen that in the jurisdiction, in the law, even today, people are sentenced to, if someone is committing, someone is killing someone, previously they used to hang him till death, right? They will hang him till death, and that pen which they will use, they will break the lid of that pen, so that a pen that has been used to kill someone should not be used in anything else. Anyway, this was not the point. But the point was, so even in law, there is some reference to Manu Samhita, as we can see here. Right? If so, you are killing someone, then you will be hanged to death. By killing a murderer, the government shows mercy to him Because if a murderer is not killed in this life, he will be killed and forced to suffer many times in future lives. Right? We might be thinking, oh, the law is so bad, he is killing him. No, he's not killing him, he is actually protecting him. If he doesn't kill him, he has to go through this suffering throughout many lifetimes. But if he doesn't, right, if he does kill him, then he actually get rid of all his sinful activities. Since people do not know about the next life and the intricate working of nature, they manufacture their own laws, but they should properly consult the established injunctions of the Shastras and act accordingly. In India, even today, the Hindu community often takes advice from expert scholars regarding how to counteract sinful activities. They consult panditas, acharyas, right? In Christianity, also, there is a process of confession and atonement. Therefore, atonement is required, and atonement must be undergone according to the gravity of one's sinful acts. Sri Rajovacha. Sri Rajovacha. Who is the Raja? Raja is king. Right? King? Who is king? King Parikshit. Text 1.9. Sri Rajovacha. Drishta Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Janan Api Atmano Hitam Karoti Bhoya Vivasa Prayaschitam Atho Katham. Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activities is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sin again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Right? So, people might give up their might get rid of their sin, but they will not get rid of their tendency to commit sin. Right? People might say that, okay, this Sunday I will do this confession and atonement thing that has been explained in Christianity. I will go to the church, I will confess this to the Father, and what, atonement is done. But still I will come back, and on from Monday I will again start doing all sort of sinful activities. No, that is not prescribed. That is not the way, because we are so much attached to material enjoyment. We are so much attached to our conditions that it is very difficult to get rid of our sinful acts, right, of our tendency to commit sinful acts. Right? People know that there are so many harmful reactions to masturbation, right? To so many harmful reactions to masturbation, so many harmful health hazards to illicit sex. There are so many sexually transmitted diseases. uh, there is so much harm if you drink alcohol, but still, even after knowing this, people are not able to get rid of it. Even after knowing that if you smoke you will get lungs cancer, people are not able to get rid of it. Why? Because they are strongly attached to that, because they are strongly attached to this tendency to smoke, this tendency to commit sin. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking here, so what should those people do who are who are very much attached to the tendency of committing sin, and even though they do atonement after committing sin, what is the meaning of this atonement? We will close after reading the purport of this verse. We'll continue from 1.9 tomorrow. Not tomorrow. We will see when. In some religious sects, a sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine. But then he again commits the same sins and returns to confess them. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Right? Prabhupada makes a term here, professional sinner. Probably we all are professional sinners, right? Parikshit Maharaj's observation indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was the practice of criminals to atone for their crimes but then commit the same crimes again, as if forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parikshit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he's punished, one is attached to sense enjoyment will one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivasha is used here in indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Parikshit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejection for this process. So basically, Parikshit Maharaj is rejecting the first recommendation by Sukadev Goswami, that is Karma Kand. Karma Kand they should do so that they get rid of they counteract their sinful acts. This is known as atonement, and Parikshit Maharaj is rejecting this. It will be further explained in the next verse, text 1.10, that we will discuss not today but tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for listening. We will meet again when good fortune arises. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.